To learn more about kindness and how we can make people's day every day, today I'm talking to Howard Prager. I hope I pronounced your last name right. Is that correct, Prager?
Yeah, it's close enough. We go with a strong A, so we say Prager.
Prager.
But I know in Europe, and especially in Germany and Germanic countries, Prager is the more common pronunciation.
Okay. Well, for me also, Julius in English-speaking countries, but actually in Holland, Julius, or in Dutch, Julius.
Yes.
Prager. Howard Prager, he's the author of the book, Make Someone's Day, Become a Memorable Leader in Work and Life. And he's also a speaker and executive coach. There it is. I've been enjoying it very much. And he's the founder and president of Advanced Learning Group. And as I already mentioned before, I didn't have time to read the entire book, but I've really enjoyed a lot of the anecdotes, also the practical steps. We'll get to that later when we dive into the questions. And I think that kindness, it doesn't cost anything, but it can really make a difference in our daily lives, both for ourselves and others. So Howard, thanks so much for being with me here today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Julius. Really nice to be here and nice to be part of your 39 ideas. That's remarkable.
Well, I'm happy you're a part of it, Howard. Before we dive into the topic of kindness and your book, Make Someone's Day, I'd love it for you to give me, the listeners and the viewers, a quick introduction on yourself, and especially what got you to writing this book.
That's great. Thank you. So I've got a background. I'm a speaker, author, executive coach, and leadership consultant.
Yes.
And that's been my career. I spent time in both the corporate world as a manager, director of training, and I've spent time in the executive education world working in higher ed. As a matter of fact, I worked with a client, we won an EFMD award. EFMD is the European Foundation for Management Development. And we're very honored to receive one of 5 in the world best-in-class practices from them. And then I've had my own business for a number of years, 2 stints. The first time was 5 years, and this time I'm going on 7 years right now.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of my background. A lot more I can tell you as we have our conversation goes further, but let me tell you where the idea came from.
Yes,
and it's something I feel like I've lived with my whole life, but I hadn't really put a name on it until this innocent experience happened. And it happened very innocently, although as I've looked through it and thought about it, it's really how I've lived my life. But this is what really put it to the forefront of my attention, is that I was commuting downtown Chicago. I live in the Chicago suburbs, and by commuter train. And this was early one morning around 6:30 a.m. And a young woman comes up to me with a clipboard and asked me, can I sign this petition? I said, sure, I'm happy to sign it. What's it for? To get somebody on the ballot so they can run for election. I said, fine. So she gave me the clipboard. I signed it. I believe I was the first one to sign it. I gave it back to her, and she looked at me with the biggest of eyes, and she said, oh my gosh, you made my day.
And you were the first one to sign it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if she had asked other people and they turned her down. I don't know if this is her first time ever doing it, but whatever it is, the act of signing her petition made her day. Yeah. And in return, her saying those words made my day. And I talk about this in the book, that there's a boomerang effect because your mirror neurons reflect the neurons that people feel where they say, you made my day. Those are the most powerful words anybody can say to you. It's not like thank you or appreciate it. You made my day is because someone felt that you've done something in the right place, in the right time to make a difference in their lives.
Yes.
And I thought about that the whole ride down, and I started sketching out right then and there what might be the outline for the book that I started to research and get more stories and experiences about.
So on that commuter train, the seed of the book was sown.
Correct.
Yeah. That's interesting. And when was this? How long ago was this? Because your
This
book
was
published in, sorry?
Right. Booklet published late last year,
Yes.
and this was 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So even before COVID. Yeah.
Yes, yes. When we're actually traveling to jobs, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, we're getting back to that.
We
Slowly.
are.
Yes.
Yes.
Luckily. Yeah. Howard, what does kindness mean to you personally? And how do you practice this in your daily life? I mean, I know the answer to that question because I've been going through your book and I have some great examples, but I'd love to hear from you also.
Yes, yes. So I think kindness and appreciation shows that you care about others.
Yes.
That they're important and you want to recognize that.
Yeah.
And I believe it's important in so many ways that we need more kindness both in life and in the workplace. We need kindness throughout. There's a study that was just reported, some research that was done. It's called the rabbit effect. It was a Columbia University professor by the name of Kelly Harding on the phenomena. And it comes from an interesting experiment in which researchers were trying to determine the effects of high-fat diets on the heart health of rabbits. But they had a surprising side effect because the rabbits that weren't on this heart-healthy diet that we're all trying to achieve as well, got some special attention from the research assistant who handled them. And research assistants spent extra time being kind to them, helping them. And surprisingly, their hearts literally noticed that. And the experiment offered proof that social support and happiness have significant measurable impact on our bodies.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And how did they study the hearts of these rabbits?
I didn't get into, it doesn't go into that, but talked about the fact that we spend such a fortune on medical care.
Sure, yeah.
In this country and really around the world, right?
Yeah.
We've got drugs and tests and procedures and this and that.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that, doing things emotionally, psychologically, ways to be able to help improve people's spirits. We don't spend as much anywhere near that type of money on that. And here's proof that these rabbits, at least, given better kindness and attention, live just as well as the rabbits that had the heart healthy diet.
Yeah.
And I hope that's not someone that says, well, just live a lifestyle and forget your heart healthy diet. No. Let's all eat heart healthy diets, but let's also bring kindness and happiness into the world, because when we do that, we reap the benefits. And the research has also shown that we live 5 to 8 years longer when we're happier and kinder.
Yeah, so it goes both ways, because that's actually another question that I had for you is, in your experience, what happens both for ourselves and to others when we practice kindness? In other words, what are the benefits of kindness, for instance, in terms of well-being, but also mental health? Maybe you found some studies on that too.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so much research that's been done. Let's see, Robin Banerjee from the University of Sussex did a lot of research, for example, on healthcare. And when you visit someone in the hospital and you bring positivity with you, that actually helps the recovery. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to recover, depending on what they have, but certainly provides the lift that they need to help them mentally deal with whatever they're dealing with physically.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned this in your book, actually, that we all share this human need for recognition, to be seen and heard. And you also speak, or you write, of presence, to really give someone your present attention. I think that
Yes,
makes a huge difference, right? To really acknowledge one another.
it does. Everything I read and continue to read about, uh, Elias talks about the fact that we are a social people. We
Yes,
need the ability to connect with one another.
yes,
And this goes beyond the extrovert introvert. And I talk about extroversion and introversion
correct.
in the book
Yeah,
and talk about that even introverts can learn this and make someone's day and still do it in a way that's comfortable for them.
yeah,
But it's that human need for connection that helps us all feel better, do better, live better.
yeah, yeah. You write in your book about the VIP plus R&R model. And this
Yeah,
is and I like it because, as you do, I imagine, this is a very, I mean, I like systematic, simple approaches, you know, when it's easy, dissectable, and you can remind yourself by this acronym. It's a simple, systematic approach for identifying opportunities, basically, to be kind to others, to help others, and to make their day. Can you explain the
yeah.
model, Howard, and why it would be good to apply this in our lives and work?
I'd love to. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I've actually simplified it. I called it the VIP model.
yeah,
And I'll talk about the R&R afterwards.
yeah,
But who doesn't want to be treated like a VIP, right?
yeah,
We all would like to have that red carpet special treatment to feel like we are important. Well, the VIP model helps you do that. V stands for view and observe. What's going on around you? What's going on with people? What may they need? So when you view people, and as I said, you can do this online by seeing what are people posting on social media? What
yeah,
are they caring about, concerned about? And certainly in person, you can see the physical reactions that they're having. Some of the things that you can do are very simple. Sometimes it just takes a smile to help people feel out of a funk and feel better.
yeah,
Other times it's just small acts. We talked about traveling before our talk, and traveling has lots of examples of helping people with their luggage or into
yeah,
their seats or whatever they may need. It's easy to see that and do that. So view and observe is the V. That's step one.
yeah,
Step two is I. So once you viewed and observed and kind of went around in your head to think about what is it that they really need, then I identify and consider what are the options out there I might want to do? What are the ways that I can make a difference? And they can, again, go from the very simple of really just being able to help someone or get someone something to drink to the more extreme, which involves maybe some mentoring or getting some
mhm,
support. I'll talk about, I've got some stories about that as well. So view, I is identify and consider. And then the P is simple. Once you've viewed it, you've observed it, you have identified it, you've considered it, now you just plan and act.
yeah,
And I purposely put plan there because one of the challenges we face in life today is this whole bit around texting and doing it so quickly that we need to respond fast. And the P says plan, even
mhm,
if you just take a few seconds. The doctors in the emergency room or doing triage at the scene of an accident, they act, but they plan a bit. What does it take? What do we need to stop first? I work a lot with young scouts and teach them first aid. And I say, we always need to plan before we act right away.
mhm,
And practice problems as to what's the most serious injury that needs to be dealt with.
mhm,
So plan and then act. So whether it's a few seconds because you have to do something right away, or if it's longer, if it's something more complex. So VIP, view and observe, identify, consider, and plan and act. That's the total process.
yeah,
The R&R comes afterwards. And who doesn't like R&R, right? We all need some R&R in our lives. This R&R is to review and reflect. Review on what you did, what happened, how did you notice it, what worked. the one thing I do say is that one size does not fit all. We don't buy clothes that way. It really doesn't work. When you do, it's like they're either too big or too small or too tight or too loose or whatever it is. One size does not fit all. So one solution does not fit all either. So doing something for people that they need individually at that time specifically, that's what the VIP model is all about. And so when you review and reflect on that, you kind of say, what did I learn? What might I want to do next time?
Yeah. And I think, again, it's very important to be present in the moment to really assess what is needed and how you can be of most help to someone. Is that correct?
Indeed, you are absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. So, Howard, do you think that kindness is inherent in our nature and perhaps lost at times? Or is kindness something that we need to relearn or even relearn, or need to learn, or learn and or relearn as you try to do through your book and the VIP model?
Yes. Our brains are wired, Julius. They're wired to accept negativity easily. It's so easy to complain, to criticize, and to just be upset about something. And we can go there in a second. We go there so quick that we need to rewire our brains towards positivity.
Yeah.
And so that's where kindness comes in. Yeah, we do have to work at it, but it can become something natural, something second nature to us. If we work on it and rewire our neural pathways, and you do this mentally, you don't need to do this, you don't go inside there and operate to rewire those neural pathways. We do it by thinking and doing acts of loving kindness towards one another.
Yeah. What about acts of love and kindness towards oneself?
That's so important. We've got to always deal with ourselves first.
Yeah.
We can spend so much time, and so I will admit it, I am a habitual volunteer. Someone says, Howard, can you help me? My first reaction is, oh, of course I can. And I realize I'm not always good to myself when I always say yes. So we have to teach ourselves to be kind to ourselves and to give what we can. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's just a small amount, but whatever it is, we need to be able to do that in a way that makes us whole and feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, I think it goes for it's also with love. You have to first love yourself before you can love someone else, really. Otherwise, it just becomes a neediness exercise and you're trying to fill something that you cannot find with yourself.
Correct.
And I think also with regard to kindness, if you're not kind and forgiving to yourself and your own faults and your mistakes, perhaps it will become difficult to be able to do that with others. So I think it definitely goes both ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about the boomerang effect. And you mentioned it already at the beginning. Basically, it means that when we treat people well, it comes back to us and people will reciprocate. However, it's not always the case. And I, for instance, I'm training for a triathlon race, so I'm running a lot, I'm biking a lot, so I encounter many people along the way. And I'm always, I like to acknowledge people and greet them or give them a smile, And sometimes when I do that, or when I smile or greet someone, they don't say anything, or they just walk past with a stern face, And you talk about this in your book, that we shouldn't question our own friendliness. But at some point I'm thinking, I get a bad feeling for not having this acknowledged. So maybe there's something with my expectations, or what are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I've got to share with you, my daughter is a triathloner. She has run several Ironman competitions. And,
I'm training for my first, yeah.
Wow, good luck.
Thank you. I need it. Yeah.
Yeah, I admire you and your ability to continue to um, not exercise, but challenge yourself in such an extreme way. It
It
really
is.
is. Even the half my Ironman are 6 hours in length. So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Good luck. So what about people who don't acknowledge you? What about that? Um, you know, the receiver has to be ready as well as the originator, as the
Hmm.
giver.
Yeah.
And when the receiver isn't ready or is in a different frame of mind, um, it's not your fault. I wouldn't stop being friendly just because someone's not friendly back.
Yeah.
The other thing just want to correct slightly something that you said, just because I don't want people to feel that there has to be an equal reaction.
No, no,
That
there's not.
an
Yeah.
equal, yeah, yeah. The boomerang effect just means it comes back to you, but doesn't necessarily mean that rewards are going to come back
Yeah.
or money or anything else. But what's going to happen is the positivity, the good feeling that
Yeah.
others have, you're going to experience that as well. That's why it works in medical settings and other ways too.
Yeah.
So that boomerang effect, and it's a been scientifically proved, is based off of your mirror neurons, which reflect off other people's reactions.
Hmm.
And so keep being positive, because it will come back. It doesn't happen every time. I love to say, it works 5 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10. I believe it works the majority of times.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work every single time. But that doesn't mean you should stop doing it or choose what you do. Maybe what it means is, as my mentor Marshall Goldsmith says, maybe it's choosing the right people. Maybe it's your selection process.
Yeah.
So selecting the people that you say hello to and give of yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's
may be too.
That's interesting. It brings me the thought that I'm reading also about friendship. I'm reading a book on friendship, and I'm not sure I like the book because it sounds very transactional. That you have to seek out your friends so that they're also of value. I think a true friend is a friend in any case. So a true kind person is a kind person to anyone, irrespectively of what he or she could get from them. And that's why also, I feel a tad bit conflicted, because indeed I want to be a kind person. It's for my own standard. I don't do it in the first place for someone. I do it because I want to be a kind person. And if they don't reciprocate it, that's okay. Just like you said, maybe they're in a different frame of mind, or they have other things on their mind, and it has nothing to do with me. But still, there's an element of me that sometimes takes it personal. And yeah. So
I know. When we give of ourselves, whether it's ideas, direction, or support, we want to feel that we can get something back for doing that.
mm-hmm.
And I think I just have to say, there's no quid pro quo. It doesn't always work that you get back
mm-hmm.
what you give, but the majority of time you will. And in return, you may get things that you can't give back to. I don't know if it happens over in Europe as often as the stories or rumors are of it happening here in the States,
mm-hmm.
but it's people paying for the person behind them in line, like at the Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever. They're driving through, picking up their meal. I know that in Europe you're more civilized and you don't do this, drive through and eat on your lap as much as we do in America. But there's a lot of stories about people paying for the people behind them. And I've got a colleague who that once happened to, and she said, thanks, and drove off. And since then, she's been beating herself up. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't pay for the person behind me. So now she instigates it several times a month, because she felt so bad that she missed the opportunity to keep the chain going.
Yeah. But actually it spiraled her into starting a bigger chain.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So what is that then that makes her want to, because I imagine in a way that she's experienced some kind of guilt, right? Because she didn't pass it on, what happened to
Correct.
her. And out of
Correct.
that guilt, is that the right motivator to be generous because we feel
Yeah.
guilty? Or what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't think you should feel guilty about doing or not doing it. People did it for you or for, they didn't know who you were. They didn't know, they just said, we're paying for the person behind me.
Yeah.
So they don't know who you are. I wouldn't worry about any guilt feeling, but when you're in the mood of being generous and kind to others, there's no reason why you can't just go ahead, as you say, initiate
Yeah.
this sort of behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. When some of those people who don't reciprocate kindness, sometimes it's difficult to muster the kindness. Also for myself, when I'm having a hard time, it's more difficult to be friendly to those around me, to focus on helping the other person because I'm too much involved with my own little world,
Yes, yes.
What can we do to get out of this rut and to actually open up again? I imagine gratitude is an element there. What other pointers would you have?
So if you're in a rut where you're not focused on others and more focused on yourself or your challenges, I'd say, first of all, take a deep breath. Kind of let go of the challenges and problems you face and just sort of breathe in. Whenever we have problems, we can take them so seriously, which we probably should, but being tense and tight about those problems doesn't help solve it. Relaxing the mind. So often I know, like when I'm swimming or when I'm sleeping, I'll get all these ideas that come to me because I'm not stretching. I'm not pushing myself so much.
Yeah.
So find ways to kind of ease back and relax. And when you make someone's day, that's one way of doing that.
Yeah.
That's another way of really being able to take the focus and intensity off of you and put it on doing well and good for others.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. You mentioned that the part about the tension. I think that it's interesting because we're doing number 36 out of 39. So 35 ideas. I'm reaching the end of it, but so far it has come up in different forms and shapes. That just being present, as we spoke about before. Honesty, authenticity, being real and truthful in the moment, and all of this has a lot to do with letting go of tension. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned when we are stuck in our own little world, we tend to tense up and we don't have an eye for our surroundings anymore. And indeed, we have to be able to let go. Like you said, take a deep breath. And then, we start to see what's around us again.
Yes, absolutely. During the pandemic, there was some really beneficial side effects, I think, that happened. And believe me, I'd rather have seen these side effects happen some other way than an awful pandemic that hit and killed so many people throughout the world.
Yeah.
But one of the things was that people started walking more in their neighborhoods and appreciating and seeing things maybe for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's a way of really opening ourselves up by having a different perspective, by being open to seeing what's out there. That's so important in life, that we're running from place to place, from project to project, from meeting to meeting, from errand to errand, and we don't stop to pause. And the pause is what makes all the difference to us. It really is.
Well, I think we're coming in a circle in a way, because when we stop and pause, when we breathe, when we become present, that's when we are able to see those around us,
Yeah.
acknowledge them, which is already the first gift, to really see them for who they are, and then potentially, as you say, identify a particular need they might have and then help them or support them in some way. So I think
Absolutely.
it makes a ton of sense to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say, one of the things I could see you finding after you go through these 39 ideas is find some of those common threads and saying, from 39 ideas, I've got these 7 or 8 threads that I see, themes that go through all of them.
Yes.
Or a number of them anyway, that bring in common. And I think what you're doing is you're finding what are some of the universal truths that are out there that
Yes.
maybe we're just missing.
Yes. Well, it's very interesting that you bring this up, because I've been thinking about this and I've been playing around with it. And even I've even actually talked to Michelle about this, because I'm still in touch with her, and we've had some follow-up contact after the interview, and we've had a conversation. I asked her for some feedback on some ideas I have, because indeed, as I mentioned part of it, which is the relaxation, the physical relaxation. That on one side, and on the other side, also vulnerability, to really showing up and allowing us to show ourselves. I think those two things, that's something that is, we're just scratching the surface in a way as to how important that is, I feel. And just like you said, we're running from task to task, from project to project, from errand to errand, and we forget about this part of being our true self, discovering, for one, our true self, because that's also not static. We're very dynamic beings.
Yes.
And so I'm contemplating by maybe exploring those in more detail through maybe a PhD project or something. I don't know. I'll see what comes out of it, but it's definitely on the back of my mind. But yeah, I'll need some more time for that.
That's great.
Yeah, but I appreciate you saying it, and there definitely is a red line. Obviously, in part, I might be biased in these things, but at the same time, I mean, like via Michelle now, how we got introduced, there's also a lot of serendipity. It's not me choosing all the topics. A lot of it is just coming and it's finding its way to the project left and right. It's also interesting. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I'll bet it is.
Yeah. You share a very interesting example in your book, and I'd love to hear more about it, which is what you and your wife did when you just got married. You decided to take your dog Spencer and visit the patients and residents of a senior living and rehab facility. And these were all strangers to you both, to you and your wife. And you just went there and spent time with the dog and made many people's day. Can you tell more about that anecdote?
Yeah, thank you. That was a great experience. We felt so lucky to find each other, second marriage for both of us.
Yes.
And so happy that we wanted to share our happiness and joy with others. And we had the most adorable rescue dog. Spencer was a mutt, but looked Tibetan Terrier. So for those dog lovers out there, if you look up Tibetan Terrier, that's what Spencer looked like. Really friendly, easygoing and everything. So we found a senior center and rehab facility not too far away. And we said, we contacted them and said, we'd like to bring our dog over and do some therapy and visit the residents and patients. And the reaction for those, and not 100% of people wanted to see Spencer, but those that did absolutely adored their opportunity to just pet and get some comfort from the kindness of our best friends.
Yeah, and I imagine that a dog or an animal, for that matter, is a great medium for that, or because they have unconditional attention and joy for anyone they meet, as long as it's at least to some extent reciprocated, or even doesn't have to. They're just enthusiastic little creatures.
I know, they just want the loving, they just want the attention, and they get that and they feel good. Boy, if we could all just say, oh boy, I just get a little attention, I feel better. That would do so much in our lives. Fortunately, our pets, that's all they need.
Yeah, yeah. Why are we typically hesitant to do things like this? Because it's a great idea, and you and your wife did this, and I'm sure you've done more things like this, but I don't think that's the same for everyone. You know, we're typically quite reserved. We say, no, it's their business. Maybe they're not interested, or we're not welcome, and so then the idea leaves us again.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, for me, I'm wired this way. I'm wired towards extroversion and really being out there and helping others. As I said, I'm a habitual volunteer.
Yes.
I'll put my hand up whenever someone asks. But I don't know if we all do. And I think what happens is we get overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed in work and life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's starting to happen now in the workplace. As people are starting to come back, the conflicts are increasing. Mm. It is so sad. I just read a statistic that said 89% of employees experience a work conflict of some kind that takes an average of 3.5 hours of time to deal with it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And I think it's because we're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed with our own selves, with our own lives, with trying to make a living and deal with the challenges that we face and all that's going on in the world. The war in Ukraine, it sits heavily on so many people right now, and rightly so. The struggles as new pandemic strains, this thing it's not gone. I think the worst of it is gone, but it keeps mutating. Yeah. And so mask on, mask off. It's people just, so we're more kind of stressed and confused, and we want to go back, but I have said there's no going back. There's only going forward. And hopefully as we go forward, we can relive and rebring some of the things from our past that we used to like and enjoy and do. Yeah. But not everything. Some things are going to be new and new ways of dealing with them. Much like this conversation, Julius, which several years ago would have required you to fly to me or me to fly to you. Yeah. And here we are across the world from one another and able to have this delightful conversation through technology. And it's going to continue to evolve to take us that way. Yes. So I think it's trying to just make sense and give ourselves and find those opportunities to pause, to express kindness, to support one another, and truly to think about making someone's day. If we do that every day, either at home or in the workplace, we're going to get back so much more. So that's why I wrote the book. That's the whole purpose behind the book, is to encourage people and to show how using kindness and gratitude can make such a difference in others' lives and in return in your life.
Yeah. I appreciate you, Howard, for writing this book and thereby inspiring other people to open their eyes and to see what's around them and to indeed share some kindness and make people's day. Two remaining questions. One is from the people that have read your book so far. I'm sure you've had some really amazing feedback. Could you share maybe one or two stories of people who have been inspired by the book? I'd love to hear about these examples and how they made someone's day.
It's so funny that on the cover of the book, I put a quote from the CEO of Lindt Chocolate Italy. Yeah. Because he said, just hearing the title of the book made him feel good, and made him do 5 acts of kindness for others that he worked with.
Hmm.
So talk about an example and immediate return. He hadn't even read the book yet. And he said after reading it, he said, I'll do even more. But he said just hearing the title of it made him feel good. That to me felt so great. It said to me that I've got the right title and the right experience. And so as we're all enjoying some delicious chocolate, we can think about that and think about how that is making a difference at that organization.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite stories. And then the stories keep coming. That's the other thing that I'm so amazed with is I keep hearing more and more stories. Let me tell you about something that's going to just grab your heart, I think. And that's a 12-year-old boy in Mississippi had a rare blood disease. And the only thing that could cure him was a bone marrow transplant. We've heard of those types of cases before,
Yes.
but this isn't a bad, sad news story. This is a happy story because he got that bone marrow transplant and needed chemo for a year, and he was going to be all better. That young man, Abraham is his name, is 13 now. And because he had a life-threatening disease and illness, he was granted a wish by the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Make-A-Wish grants wishes to children who are terminally ill. And so since he had fit that category, he had that opportunity. It's sort of like if we rub that magic lens lamp and we get the genie, what would we ask for?
Yeah.
So what do most kids ask for? What do you think they want? They want to go to Disney. They want PlayStation, Legoland, whatever it may be. They're looking for fun and joy and excitement in their lives. What did young Abraham want to do? He wanted to feed the homeless. He said, my wish is to feed the homeless in my community. And Make-A-Wish, this is the first time in that chapter they ever got that request before. They didn't know what to do. And so they decided that we're going to feed 80 to 100 people once a month for a year. And Abraham said, that's great. And I'm going to set up a foundation so that doesn't stop after the year, but can keep going. And he had so many wonderful expressions of appreciation and gratitude for doing this, for making the day of people who don't have much.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing. And so what I say is there's opportunities we can learn from this 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
What we can do around kindness and gratitude.
Yeah.
And if we bring that with us to our workplaces and to our lives, it's going to make a difference for everybody. And we don't have to do something as broad as that. There's a CEO of Campbell's Soup. I don't know if you have Campbell's over there, but Campbell's is.
We don't have the brand here.
Yeah, it's like Heinz, it's soups and beans and such. And anyway, the CEO came in and they were having problems. There was more red in that company than the tomato soup. And so what they did is the CEO said, I'm going to start writing thank you notes to people who are doing something that move us forward. And so he had to have his antenna up to hear what are people doing in the company. He didn't write 1 thank you note a week or 5 thank you notes a week. He wrote 100 to 200 thank you notes a week to people. What do you think they did when they got those thank you notes? Did they throw them out? Did they read them and ignore them?
Keep them.
Yeah, they posted it on their walls. They were so proud of that. And do you think they're going to do more things like that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
He turned the company around. Now, it wasn't just thank you notes or other actions he did, but I've got to believe that that piece of gratitude made such a difference. Well, it doesn't have to take a company failing or a CEO to write a thank you note. So here's what I'm going to challenge everyone who's listening or watching this to do.
Please,
Think of someone who's helped you in your life. A parent, an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, a coach, whoever it is There's no statute of limitations on saying thank you. Reach out to them and let them know what a difference they made in your life.
Yeah.
You could call them, you could write them. If it's possible, you can take them to coffee or tea or a meal, but just let them know. I can assure you they will truly value and appreciate the fact that you took the trouble and effort to go back and let them know how your life has gone and how much they impacted that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'd like to, I mean, I think it's a great suggestion, and we all should do this much more. Also, like the 13-year-old boy from Mississippi, what I want to stress or emphasize, I think he was right, because we tend to focus on ourselves when we have problems and it's not going our way, or we feel overwhelmed and all these things. But as I've also learned, the moment we start looking outside and putting our attention to helping other people, even just by a small thing as a smile, or as you suggest in the book, you know, when people share something online, you can just click a like button and it helps them, you know, and it gives them the encouragement that we're all seeking for, you know. So it's even small things, and by doing that for other people, our own problems become smaller, and yeah, it just lifts not only their day but also our own day. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, why do this at work? Because we spend most of our time at work. So
yes,
absolutely bring this to the workplace and see the difference it can make. If you're an owner or a business leader or a CEO, think about improving your culture and make someone's day and create a culture of kindness and gratitude. You will not believe the returns you're going to get from that. You're going to get greater retention, you're going to get greater productivity, and you're going to get people who are excited about being there and doing the work. So use that opportunity to help your organization while helping the people in your organization, the people who bring it to life.
I appreciate you saying that, and not only in your organization, but just in your life in general, your neighbors, whoever. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Last question, Howard, and I like to close with this question. I've done it, I think, almost all of the interviews except one. What question about kindness and making someone's day didn't I ask, which I should have asked? I'm sure there's many, but which angle did I not look at, or what did I miss?
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot about touched on the neuroscience of it. We touched on doing it at work. We touched about that it can happen spontaneously. I think the thing is maybe the spontaneity of it, we could talk about just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think that question is, how do you do it spontaneously? How do things happen? And I think it's that awareness. We need to become aware of it. That's why I created the VIP model, to help us be aware, to view and observe what's going on, to take a step back, to take a breath and seeing what's going on elsewhere, and just kind of escaping our own little shell and our own challenges. So I say, bring spontaneity in life. You're going to have so much more joy because you're going to be bringing others that joy. Look at those who you feel are struggling. Check this out and try this out. And so what I say to people when I do workshops around this is we practice viewing and observing and then checking those reactions. Are those right or not right? So we learn it one step at a time. So don't feel that you failed if you've tried it and it doesn't work. Keep going at it because it's going to work more often than not. You're going to get better at it the more that you do it. So spontaneity is absolutely a part and a big part of Make Someone's Day. I
appreciate it, Howard. Really a lot. Yeah. And also the book and your little nuggets and tips shared here. I'm inspired actually to hang up the call and send some thank you messages to some people that I have in mind now. So
perfect. I hope your listeners are feeling the same way. Just take a moment and send a thank you note or call someone
Yeah.
who you haven't had an opportunity to really say thank you to.
Yeah.
You'll feel better doing it, and so will they.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Howard. I appreciate you.
Julius, I do too. I appreciate you. Thank you for this time. Thank you, listeners, for listening in to this great conversation. You've made my day, Julius, by having me on and giving me the opportunity to have this dialogue with you and share these insights with your many listeners.
I appreciate it. Have a great day, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye, Howard.
Bye-bye.
Bye.